The warning came on a Tuesday morning, not through diplomatic channels or first contact protocols, but as burning streaks across Earth's sky. Admiral Sarah Chen watched from the command center of the United Earth Defense Station as thousands of alien ships dropped out of hyperspace, their hulls glowing with the heat of atmospheric entry. "All defensive platforms online, Admiral," Lieutenant Martinez reported, his voice steady despite the sweat beading on his forehead. "Enemy vessels are ignoring our communication attempts." Chen nodded grimly. Humanity had known this day might come. Ever since they discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago, they had prepared for the possibility of hostile alien contact. But nothing could have prepared them for the scale of this assault. The invaders called themselves the Galactic Hegemony. Their message, when it finally came, was simple and brutal. Earth had been marked for harvesting. Its resources would feed their empire, its people would serve as labor, and any resistance would be met with complete destruction. The first wave hit the major cities: New York, London, Beijing, Mumbai, all targeted simultaneously. Energy beams carved through skyscrapers like hot knives through butter. Millions died in the first hour. But humanity had learned from its history. Hidden beneath mountains and oceans, Earth's true defenses awakened. Project Fortress, a network of planetary shields and weapons platforms, came online. Cities that should have been vaporized were protected by shimmering energy barriers. Counterstrikes launched from concealed silos caught the invaders off guard. Commander Jake Thompson led the first squadron of humanity's new Phoenix-class fighters into battle. The ships were sleek, black, and armed with weapons reverse-engineered from a crashed alien probe found on Mars years earlier. As his fighters screamed through the upper atmosphere, Thompson watched alien bombers preparing for another run at Tokyo. "Phoenix Squadron, weapons free," he commanded. "Let's show these bastards what happens when they mess with Earth." The human fighters were outnumbered 10 to 1, but they had something the invaders didn't expect: adaptability. While the aliens followed rigid attack patterns, the human pilots flew with creativity and unpredictability. Thompson barrel-rolled between enemy fire, his plasma cannons finding weak spots in alien shields. Below, Dr. Maria Rodriguez worked frantically in her underground laboratory. The alien technology they had studied for years was finally being put to the test. Her team had discovered something remarkable. Human neural patterns were uniquely suited for interfacing with quantum weapon systems. Where other species required complex computers, humans could control these weapons with thought alone. "Neural link established," she announced to her team. "Quantum cannons are online." Around the world, specially trained humans sat in control pods, their minds merged with Earth's defense grid. They could feel the planet's pain, sense every attack, and respond with devastating precision. Orbital defense platforms that had seemed like expensive space junk suddenly revealed their true purpose. Unfolding massive weapons arrays that had been hidden from prying alien eyes. The hegemony commander, Executor Craxon, observed the battle from his flagship. His species, the Vorthak, had conquered 1,000 worlds. They were ancient, powerful, and had never faced serious resistance. Earth was supposed to be another easy victory. "Executor, the humans are mounting unexpected resistance," his tactical officer reported. "Their technology is unusual. It doesn't match their apparent development level." Craxon's 4 eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Our scouts reported them as barely space-capable. Continue the assault." But as the hours passed, it became clear that humanity was full of surprises. Secret military bases revealed themselves, launching missiles that phased through alien shields. Submarine-launched fighters emerged from the oceans. Even civilian ships were quickly converted into combat vessels, their crews fighting with desperate courage. In Geneva, the United Earth Council convened in an emergency session. President Elena Vasquez addressed the assembly via hologram, her image flickering as explosions rocked the surface above their bunker. "Ladies and gentlemen, "We face extinction," she said bluntly. "But we will not go quietly. I'm authorizing the activation of all Omega protocols. If they want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget." The Omega protocols were humanity's last resort. Weapons so dangerous they had been banned by Earth's own governments. Antimatter bombs, singularity generators, and worse. But facing annihilation, moral restrictions became secondary to survival. Captain Lisa Park commanded one of Earth's secret weapons, a ship that officially didn't exist. The UES Nemesis was humanity's first true warship, built in the asteroid belt away from alien surveillance. As her crew prepared for launch, she addressed them. "You all volunteered for this knowing you might not come back," she said. "But today, we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of humanity to exist. Make them remember us." The Nemesis and her sister ships launched from hidden bases throughout the solar system. They were smaller than the hegemony dreadnoughts, but they were fast, heavily armed, and crewed by humans who had nothing left to lose. The tide began to turn when humanity revealed its greatest secret. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Project Prometheus activated. It was a massive quantum computer that had been analyzing alien technology for decades, learning, adapting, and improving. Now it took control of Earth's defenses, coordinating responses faster than any biological mind could manage. Alien ships that had seemed invulnerable suddenly found their shields failing. Their weapons, based on predictable energy frequencies, were countered by rapidly adapting human defenses. The invaders, used to overwhelming inferior species, found themselves in a real fight for the first time in millennia. In Moscow, Colonel Dmitry Volkov led a desperate ground defense against hegemony shock troops. The aliens were larger, stronger, and better equipped, but humans had one advantage. They were defending their home. Every street became a killing ground, every building a fortress. Civilians took up arms alongside soldiers, showing the invaders that conquering Earth would cost them dearly. "They bleed," Volkov told his troops after killing an alien warrior. "They die just like anything else. Remember that." The battle raged for days. Cities burned, millions died, but humanity refused to surrender. Every fallen human seemed to inspire 10 more to fight harder. Children hacked alien communications. Elderly veterans dusted off old skills. Scientists weaponized everything from industrial equipment to kitchen appliances. By the end of the first week, the hegemony's easy victory had turned into a bloody stalemate. Executor Craxon could not understand it. His forces were superior in every measurable way, yet these primitive humans continued to resist, adapt, and even counterattack. "Executor," his intelligence officer approached nervously. "We've analyzed the human response patterns. They're not following any known military doctrine. It's as if they're making it up as they go along." "Chaos," Craxon muttered. "They fight with chaos." What the aliens didn't understand was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its hidden weapons or secret bases. It was the human spirit itself, unpredictable, resilient, and capable of terrible violence when threatened. Every species the hegemony had conquered had followed logical patterns of resistance. Humans threw logic out the window and fought with fury. Dr. Rodriguez made a breakthrough on the 8th day. By analyzing captured alien technology, she discovered that hegemony shields operated on a specific quantum frequency. Within hours, every human weapon was retuned to exploit this weakness. "All units, this is Earth Command," Admiral Chen's voice echoed across the planet. "We have the key to their shields. Time to take the fight to them." What followed was the largest coordinated assault in human history. Every weapon, every ship, every soldier struck simultaneously. Alien vessels that had seemed invincible suddenly found themselves vulnerable. The hunters became the hunted. Captain Park led her squadron in a devastating attack on the hegemony supply lines. Without reinforcements, the alien forces on Earth began to falter. Thompson and his pilots cleared the skies. Ground forces pushed the invaders back from major cities. But humanity wasn't content with defense anymore. In secret facilities, scientists and engineers worked around the clock. They studied every piece of captured alien technology, learned from every battle, adapted every strategy. The invasion had awakened something in humanity, not just the will to survive, but the determination to ensure this never happened again. President Vasquez met with her advisors in the war room. The holographic display showed the current battle lines. Earth was holding, but at terrible cost. "They came here thinking we were prey," she said quietly. "They were wrong. General Morrison, I want options for taking the war to them." Morrison nodded grimly. "We've identified their staging areas in the outer system. If we can hit them there, do it," Vasquez ordered. "And General, make sure they understand the price of attacking Earth." As the second week of the invasion began, the hegemony forces found themselves in an impossible position. The easy conquest had become a nightmare. Humans were capturing their technology, learning their tactics, and growing stronger with each battle. Worse, human hackers had penetrated their communication networks, spreading confusion and false orders. Executor Craxon received reports of human ships appearing throughout the solar system. Somehow, these primitives had hidden an entire fleet. His invasion force, meant to overwhelm a helpless world, was now outnumbered and outmaneuvered. "Executor, we're receiving a transmission from Earth," his communications officer announced. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen, her expression cold and determined. Behind her, the burning wreckage of alien ships could be seen through the station's windows. "Executor Craxon," she began. "You came to our world uninvited. You killed our people. You threatened our existence. That was your first mistake. Your second was assuming we would break. Humanity has a message for your hegemony. We are not prey. We are not slaves. And if you continue this attack, we will show you exactly what humans are capable of." The transmission ended with footage of human forces overwhelming hegemony positions across the globe. The message was clear: Earth would not fall easily. In laboratories and workshops around the world, humanity's brightest minds worked on the next phase of the war. They had survived the initial assault, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The hegemony controlled thousands of worlds. Earth needed to be ready for what came next. Young Lieutenant Sarah Kim made a discovery that would change everything. While analyzing the quantum signature of hegemony hyperspace drives, she found a way to track their origin points. For the first time, humanity could see where their enemies came from. "We can find them," she reported to her superiors. "All of them, every world, every base, every fleet." The implications were staggering. Humanity didn't just have to defend anymore. They could take the war to their attackers. They could ensure that the hegemony never threatened Earth again. As alien forces retreated from Earth's surface, regrouping in orbit, humanity prepared for the next phase. Underground factories produced weapons at unprecedented rates. Shipyards hidden in the asteroid belt accelerated construction. Every human who could hold a weapon trained for combat. The transformation was remarkable. In 2 weeks, humanity had gone from a species on the brink of extinction to a formidable fighting force. The cost had been horrific. Entire cities lay in ruins. Millions were dead or missing. But from the ashes rose something the galaxy had never seen before: a united humanity with the technology and will to fight back. Commander Thompson, now promoted to Wing Admiral, surveyed the new fleet gathering at Lagrange Point 5. Hundreds of ships, each one incorporating captured alien technology improved by human innovation. His own fighter had been upgraded with hegemony shields and human-designed weapons that could punch through almost any defense. "They wanted to harvest us," he told his pilots. "Instead, they taught us how to fight on their level. Big mistake." Around the world, monuments rose to the fallen. But these weren't just memorials. They were promises. Promises that the sacrifice would not be forgotten. Promises that Earth would never again be caught unprepared. And promises that those who had attacked humanity would face justice. Dr. Rodriguez stood in her lab, looking at the latest breakthrough. By combining hegemony technology with human quantum theory, they had created something unprecedented, a weapon that could destabilize the quantum bonds holding matter together. It was terrible, dangerous, and exactly what humanity needed. "We didn't ask for this war," she said to her team, "but we're going to finish it." As the sun set on another day of fighting, Admiral Chen received reports from across the system. The hegemony forces were pulling back, regrouping for what would likely be a massive second assault. But humanity was ready. More than ready. They were eager. The galaxy had made a fatal error. They had attacked Earth thinking humans were weak, divided, and primitive. They had learned too late that humans were none of those things. When pushed to the brink, humanity had shown its true nature, adaptable, innovative, and absolutely ruthless when protecting their own. In bunkers and shelters, civilians watched news reports of the battles. Children drew pictures of human ships defeating alien invaders. The story spread across social media. Earth had been attacked, and Earth had fought back. The fear of the first days had transformed into determination and pride. President Vasquez addressed the planet in a broadcast that reached every surviving human. "We have been tested," she said, her voice carrying the weight of millions of deaths. "We have paid in blood for our survival, but we have proven something important. Humanity will not go quietly into the night. To those who attacked us, know this. You have awakened something that should have been left sleeping. We are coming for you." The speech ended with images of the new fleet, weapons charging, engines powering up. The message was clear to anyone watching. Humanity was no longer content to simply defend. The hunters had become the hunted, and Earth's children were ready to show the galaxy the price of threatening their home. As night fell across Earth, the planet's defenders prepared for what would come next. The invasion had failed, but the war was far from over. In space, Executor Craxon watched the human fleet growing larger by the hour. For the first time in his long life, he felt something his species rarely experienced: fear. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months had passed since the failed invasion. Earth's skies were clear of alien ships, but orbit bristled with human vessels. The shipyards of Luna worked day and night, producing warships at a rate that defied belief. Humanity had taken the hegemony's technology and improved it in ways the aliens never imagined possible. Fleet Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, the UES Vengeance. The massive dreadnought was a fusion of human engineering and captured alien systems, creating something entirely new. Around her, a fleet of 500 ships prepared for humanity's first offensive strike. "Jump coordinates locked in," Navigation Officer Williams reported. "The hegemony forward base in the Proxima system is 4 light-years away. We can be there in 6 hours. Chen nodded slowly. Intelligence gathered from captured aliens had revealed a network of hegemony bases throughout local space. Proxima Centauri hosted their nearest major facility, a staging ground for attacks on younger species. Today, that would change. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos checked her assault armor one final time. The powered suits were another hybrid creation, combining alien shield technology with human mobility systems. Her battalion of orbital drop troops would be the first humans to set foot on an enemy world. "Remember your training," she told her soldiers. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're showing the galaxy that attacking humanity has consequences." Back on Earth, the transformation was complete. Cities had been rebuilt stronger than before, incorporating defensive systems into every structure. Children learned combat tactics alongside mathematics. Factories that once produced consumer goods now churned out weapons and ammunition. Humanity had become what it needed to be to survive, a warrior species. Dr. James Chen, the Admiral's brother, made final adjustments to the quantum torpedo systems. The weapons were his creation, capable of bypassing shields by phasing through dimensional barriers. The hegemony's best defenses would be useless against them. Theoretical physics was never supposed to be weaponized like this, his assistant, Dr. Patel, commented quietly. Neither were we supposed to be targeted for extinction, Chen replied. They changed the rules. We're just playing by them now. The fleet jumped as 500 ships vanishing from Earth orbit and reappearing at the edge of the Proxima system. Immediately, alarms sounded on every hegemony vessel and station. They had never seen a fleet appear with such precision, such coordination. Station Commander Velcris of the hegemony couldn't believe his sensors. Humans were here, in force, with ships that shouldn't exist. His station housed 50,000 troops and hundreds of vessels. It should have been impregnable. All units, defensive positions, he ordered. Alert the homeworld. The humans have... His words were cut off as quantum torpedoes phased through his station's shields, detonating inside the structure. Entire sections vented into space as human fighters swarmed through the gaps. Wing Commander Thompson led the assault, his squadron carving through hegemony fighters with surgical precision. The enemy pilots flew with mechanical perfection, but humans fought with inspired madness. They pulled maneuvers that should have been impossible, their enhanced fighters responding to thought as much as action. Phoenix leader to all wings, Thompson broadcast. Remember Moscow. Remember New York. No mercy. The battle was swift and brutal. Hegemony forces, used to overwhelming weaker species, found themselves outmatched. Human ships shrugged off attacks that should have crippled them. Their weapons tore through defenses that had stood for millennia. Most terrifying of all was the coordination. Every human vessel moved as part of a greater whole, anticipating and supporting each other perfectly. Santos and her troops dropped onto the station's hull, their armor's magnetic boots keeping them attached in zero gravity. Cutting through the outer plating, they entered the station proper. The hegemony soldiers inside were larger and stronger, but human troops were faster, more adaptable, and filled with righteous fury. Sector 7 clear, Santos reported, stepping over alien bodies. Moving to primary control. Throughout the station, similar scenes played out. Human soldiers, trained in the hellish conditions of post-invasion Earth, swept through corridors with deadly efficiency. They had studied every piece of captured intelligence, knew every weakness in hegemony armor and tactics. In the command center, Velcris watched his forces crumble. He tried to understand how a species they had dismissed as primitive could be doing this. The answer came in a broadcast from Admiral Chen. Hegemony forces. This is Fleet Admiral Chen of United Earth. You have two choices. Surrender unconditionally or be destroyed. You came to our world as conquerors. You leave as prisoners or corpses. Choose quickly. Pride warred with survival in Velcris's mind. The hegemony had never surrendered to anyone. But as he watched human troops breach the command center's doors, he realized pride was a luxury he couldn't afford. We yield, he transmitted, the words bitter on his tongue. Across the system, the scenario repeated. Hegemony ships and stations fell one by one. Those who surrendered were taken prisoner. Those who fought were annihilated with ruthless efficiency. Within 4 hours, humanity controlled its first system beyond Sol. The news reached Earth via quantum communication, sparking celebrations worldwide. But for military command, this was just the beginning. Intelligence extracted from prisoners revealed the true scope of the hegemony. Thousands of worlds, millions of ships, trillions of beings all bent on consuming younger species. President Vasquez convened an emergency meeting of world leaders. The holographic conference room filled with faces from every nation, all united in purpose. "We've proven we can take the fight to them," she began. "But this base was nothing compared to their core worlds. We need to decide. Do we fortify and defend, or do we continue attacking?" Chinese Premier Liu Wei spoke first. "They will come for us again, with greater numbers. Defense alone means eventual defeat. We must attack." "Agreed," added British Prime Minister Davies. "But we need more ships, more weapons. Our entire economy must shift to war production." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would go on the offensive. Every resource would be devoted to building a fleet capable of challenging the hegemony's dominance. In the captured Proxima base, human scientists pored over alien databases. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had discovered how to track hegemony movements, made another breakthrough. "Their empire is vast but fragile," she reported to Admiral Chen. "They've grown complacent, relying on overwhelming force rather than tactical innovation. Their supply lines are vulnerable, their communication networks hackable. We can use their size against them." Plans were drawn up for a campaign unlike anything in human history. Not a war of conquest, but of liberation. Intelligence showed dozens of species enslaved by the hegemony, their worlds stripped of resources, their people forced into servitude. Humanity would free them, turning potential enemies into allies. Captain Lisa Park, now commanding a squadron of stealth ships, led the first deep reconnaissance mission. Her vessels, equipped with captured cloaking technology enhanced by human improvements, penetrated deep into hegemony space. What they found changed everything. "Admiral, you need to see this," Park transmitted from a system 12 light-years away. "The hegemony isn't just conquering species, they're harvesting them. Entire civilizations reduced to breeding stock for their armies." The images were horrifying. Worlds turned into factories where enslaved species produced weapons for their masters. Populations kept barely alive, their children taken to be indoctrinated as soldiers. The hegemony wasn't just an empire. It was a parasite feeding on the galaxy. On Earth, the reaction was immediate and visceral. Broadcasts showed the evidence to every human. The enemy wasn't just a threat to Earth, but to all life in the galaxy. Recruitment centers were overwhelmed with volunteers. Even those who had advocated for peace now called for war. Dr. Rodriguez unveiled her team's latest creation, nanite swarms capable of converting enemy technology into human-compatible systems. A captured hegemony ship could be transformed into a human vessel within hours. "We don't just defeat them," she explained to the military council. "We take everything they have and make it ours. Every victory makes us stronger." The second offensive launched 6 months after the invasion. This time, humanity struck 5 systems simultaneously. The hegemony, spread thin across their vast empire, couldn't respond effectively to the coordinated assault. Commander Jake Anderson, Thompson's protege, led the attack on a major shipyard. His bomber squadron carried humanity's newest weapon, singularity bombs that created temporary black holes. The shipyard, capable of producing 100 vessels simultaneously, was reduced to atoms in minutes. "Shipyard eliminated," Anderson reported, moving to secondary targets. On the ground, human forces liberated their first enslaved world. The Cathari had been under hegemony rule for 3 centuries, their avian forms bent by generations of servitude. When human soldiers breached their prison camps, the Cathari couldn't believe it. "You're free," Lieutenant Martinez told a group of Cathari elders, his suit's translator converting his words. "Humanity stands against the hegemony. Join us, and we'll ensure they never enslave anyone again." The liberated species brought intelligence, resources, and most importantly, hope. Word spread through secret networks. A new power had risen, one that broke chains rather than forging them. Slave revolts erupted on dozens of worlds as hope spread like wildfire. Executor Craxon, demoted after his failure at Earth, watched the reports with growing dread. The humans weren't following any known pattern of warfare. They struck without warning, adapted to every counter-strategy, and worst of all, they were turning the hegemony's subjects against them. "Summon the War Council," the Supreme Executor commanded. "If these humans want total war, they shall have it. Prepare the Extinction Fleet." The Extinction Fleet was the hegemony's ultimate weapon. 10,000 dreadnoughts designed to sterilize entire solar systems. It had been used only twice in their million-year history. Now it would burn Earth to cinders. But humanity's intelligence network, built from liberated slaves and captured technology, detected the fleet's preparation. Admiral Chen received the news calmly. "They're bringing everything," she told her staff. "Good. We won't have to hunt them down piece by piece." What the hegemony didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this. Every captured ship had been studied, every weapon analyzed, every tactic documented. Human strategists had run millions of simulations, preparing for exactly this scenario. Deep in Jupiter's atmosphere, hidden from all sensors, humanity's secret weapon waited. Project Ragnarok, a fleet of automated vessels powered by antimatter reactors and controlled by quantum AIs. Each ship was a flying bomb capable of cracking a moon in half. Meanwhile, human diplomats reached out to every species they could find. The message was simple: stand with humanity against the hegemony, or stand aside. Many chose to fight. The hegemony had ruled through fear for too long, and now that someone stood against them, others found their courage. The Talari, masters of energy manipulation, offered their technology. The Quellian, expert shipbuilders, shared their designs. Even the ancient Zerathi, who had withdrawn from galactic affairs millennia ago, provided intelligence on hegemony weaknesses. Earth became the center of a growing alliance. Ships from a dozen species gathered in human space, their crews training together, learning human tactics. What had started as a fight for survival was becoming a revolution. Captain Park's stealth squadron made another crucial discovery. The hegemony's homeworld was protected by an impenetrable shield network, but the power source was located on 3 moon bases, synchronized to create the barrier. "Take out those moons and their capital is vulnerable," Park reported. Plans within plans took shape. While the Extinction Fleet prepared its assault on Earth, humanity prepared a counterstrike that would end the hegemony forever. Every human knew the stakes: victory or annihilation, freedom or slavery for the entire galaxy. Training intensified to inhuman levels. Soldiers drilled until tactics became instinct. Pilots flew until their ships were extensions of their bodies. Scientists pushed the boundaries of physics, creating weapons that shouldn't exist. On Mars, Colonel Volkov supervised the construction of planetary defense cannons. The massive weapons could fire projectiles at significant fractions of light speed, turning asteroids into relativistic kill vehicles. "Let them come," he muttered, watching a test firing vaporize a target moon. Earth is ready. The transformation of humanity was complete. In less than a year, they had gone from a single-planet species to a galactic power. Their ships patrolled dozens of systems. Their soldiers had become legends. Their name was whispered in slave quarters and screamed in hegemony war councils. But more than military might, humanity had given the galaxy something it had lacked for millennia: hope. The hegemony's rule was not inevitable. They could be fought. They could be beaten. They could fall. As the Extinction Fleet began its journey toward Earth, humanity's forces prepared their response. The battle would be legendary, but humanity had learned an important lesson from the invasion. When fighting for survival, there were no rules except one: win. Dr. Rodriguez stood in her lab, looking at her latest creation, a virus, not biological but technological, designed to infect hegemony systems and turn them against their creators. It was elegant, deadly, and utterly human in its design. "They wanted to harvest us," she said softly. "They never asked what we might harvest from them." The stage was set for the greatest battle in galactic history. On one side, the ancient hegemony with their extinction fleet and million-year legacy of conquest. On the other, humanity and their growing alliance armed with innovation, determination, and a burning need for justice. Admiral Chen looked out at the assembled fleet, human ships alongside alien vessels, all united against a common enemy. The little aggressive apes from Earth had become the galaxy's best hope for freedom. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," she broadcast to the fleet. "The enemy comes to finish what they started. They expect to find the same humans they attacked a year ago. They're in for a surprise. Today, we don't just defend Earth. Today, we begin the end of the hegemony. Today, humanity shows the galaxy what we really are." The cheers that echoed through the fleet were in a dozen languages, but the sentiment was universal. The hunted had become the hunters, the prey had become predators, and the galaxy would never forget what happened when someone made the mistake of targeting humanity. As sensors detected the approaching extinction fleet, every human smiled the same cold smile. The hegemony thought they were bringing extinction to Earth. They had no idea they were bringing it to themselves. The extinction fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a plague of metal locusts. 10,000 ships, each one capable of turning a continent to glass, arranged in perfect formation. At their head, the Supreme Executor's flagship dwarfed even the largest human vessel. Supreme Executor Thrakis surveyed the human defenses with contempt. A few hundred ships, some planetary installations, and whatever primitive courage these upstarts possessed. By nightfall, Earth would be a cautionary tale told to other young species. "Begin the bombardment," Thrakis ordered. "Leave nothing alive." But as the hegemony fleet advanced, space itself seemed to ripple. From behind every planet, moon, and asteroid, human ships emerged. Not hundreds, but thousands. The year of preparation had borne fruit beyond the hegemony's worst nightmares. Admiral Chen smiled grimly from the Vengeance's bridge. "All forces, execute Operation Guillotine. Show them what happens when you give humans time to prepare." The battle erupted across the entire solar system simultaneously. Near Neptune, the Ragnarok fleet activated, unmanned ships screaming toward hegemony positions at speeds that defied physics. Each impact released the energy of a small star, vaporizing dozens of enemy vessels. Captain Park's stealth squadron decloaked inside the hegemony formation, quantum torpedoes already locked onto vital targets. Command ships exploded before they could issue orders. The perfect formation dissolved into chaos. "Their coordination is breaking down," Park reported. "Virus deployment in 30 seconds. Dr. Rodriguez watched from Earth's command center as her technological plague spread through hegemony systems. Ships turned on each other as friend or foe protocols reversed. Weapons systems locked onto their own fleet. Navigation computers flew vessels into collision courses. But the hegemony hadn't ruled for 1,000,000 years by being weak. They adapted quickly, isolating infected systems and fighting with manual controls. The battle became a brutal slugfest. Technology and tactics pushed to their limits. Wing Commander Thompson led his squadron through the melee, human and allied fighters dancing between capital ships like deadly mosquitoes. A Talari pilot saved his life, using their energy manipulation to deflect a killing blow. "Thanks, Blue 7, Thompson called out. "Honor to fight beside you, human leader," the Talari responded. "Your people have given us hope. We repay." On Mars, Colonel Volkov's cannons spoke. Accelerated asteroids punched through hegemony shields like tissue paper. Each impact removed a dreadnought from existence. The red planet had become humanity's fortress, bristling with weapons that turned physics into a weapon. The hegemony pressed forward despite horrific losses. Their numbers were vast, their firepower overwhelming. Earth's orbital defenses began to buckle under the assault. Cities activated their shields as energy beams rained from the sky. "Admiral, they're breaking through Sector 7, Tactical reported. Chen nodded. "Time for the surprise. Signal the Zarathi." Space twisted in ways that hurt to perceive. The ancient Zarathi fleet, hidden in dimensions parallel to normal space, emerged behind hegemony lines. Their weapons were based on principles humanity barely understood, unmaking matter at the quantum level. Supreme Executor Thrakis watched his fleet being carved apart. This was impossible. The humans were one species, barely space-capable. How had they forged these alliances? How had they developed these weapons? "Supreme Executor, we're receiving a transmission." Admiral Chen appeared on his screen, but she wasn't alone. Representatives of 20 species stood with her, all former slaves or targets of the hegemony. "Thrakis," Chen began, "you made two mistakes. First, you attacked Earth. Second, you showed the galaxy what you truly are. We're not just fighting for humanity anymore. We're fighting for everyone you've enslaved, everyone you've murdered, everyone you would have harvested." The transmission cut to show hegemony slave worlds in open revolt. Inspired by humanity's example and aided by human weapons, species across the Empire were throwing off their chains. The hegemony wasn't just fighting one war, they were fighting 1,000. Lieutenant Colonel Santos led the boarding assault on the Supreme Executor's flagship. Her troops, now veterans of dozens of ship captures, moved through the massive vessel with practiced efficiency. Hegemony warriors fell before human adaptability and allied support. "Command deck in sight," Santos reported. "Beginning final assault." In Earth's war room, President Vasquez watched the tide turn. The extinction fleet was being systematically destroyed, but the cost was enormous. Hundreds of human ships were gone, thousands of lives lost. Victory would not come cheaply. "Launch final protocol," she ordered quietly. From hidden bases throughout the solar system, humanity's last surprise revealed itself. Missiles powered by captured hegemony technology and improved with human innovation streaked toward the enemy homeworld. Each carried Dr. Rodriguez's masterwork, not weapons, but liberation. The missiles would reach hegemony core worlds in days, releasing viruses that would free every enslaved computer system, unlock every prison, and broadcast the truth of human victory. The Empire would fall not just from military defeat, but from internal collapse. Young Lieutenant Kim coordinated the cyber assault from her station. Hegemony battle networks crumbled under her attack. Their vaunted coordination, the key to their dominance, turned against them. Ships fired on their own command vessels. Defense platforms targeted their protectors. "Their entire network is compromised," she reported. "I have control of 40% of their systems." The battle reached its crescendo near Earth. The Vengeance and the Supreme Executor's flagship exchanged volleys that would have leveled cities. Around them, thousands of smaller battles raged. Human creativity met hegemony tradition, and tradition was losing. Commander Anderson's bomber wing made the crucial run. Flying through fields of defensive fire that would have stopped any sane pilot, they delivered singularity bombs to the extinction fleet's core. The weapons activated simultaneously, creating a cascade of artificial black holes that consumed hundreds of enemy ships. "Bombs away," Anderson reported, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Getting the hell out of here." On the flagship's command deck, Santos and her troops breached the final defenses. Supreme Executor Thrakis stood with his honor guard, weapons raised. The battle was fierce, but brief. Human soldiers had learned to fight hegemony warriors, exploiting weaknesses in their formal combat styles. Santos approached the fallen Supreme Executor, her armor scarred from the fighting. "You came to harvest us," she said. "How did that work out?" Across the solar system, The battle turned into a rout. Hegemony ships fled or surrendered. The extinction fleet, the ultimate expression of their power, was reduced to drifting debris. In one day, humanity and its allies had broken the back of an empire that had lasted eons. But the war wasn't over. Admiral Chen coordinated with allied fleets for the next phase. The hegemony core worlds were still defended, still dangerous. But now humanity had momentum, allies, and the knowledge that they could win. All ships capable of hyperspace, prepare for jump, Chen ordered. We're taking this fight to their doorstep. The Liberation fleet that assembled was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Human innovation, Talari energy mastery, Quellian engineering, Zarathi dimensional technology, all united in common purpose. Former slaves flew beside their liberators, freedom fighters from 100 worlds. The journey to hegemony space took weeks. Along the way, they liberated world after world. Each freed planet added ships and soldiers to the cause. The rebellion spread faster than the hegemony could respond. Their rigid command structure, so effective at maintaining control, couldn't adapt to galaxy-wide insurrection. Dr. Rodriguez traveled with the fleet, her scientific team working to understand and counter every hegemony weapon they encountered. Each battle taught them something new, made their weapons more effective. They've relied on the same technology for millennia, she explained to her team. They never innovated because they never had to. We've advanced more in 1 year than they have in 1,000. The first core world to fall was Kelos Prime, a major industrial center. The population, conditioned to obedience for generations, didn't know how to react when human soldiers destroyed their overlords and opened their prisons. Captain Park was there when the first Colosan walked free. The being, insectoid in appearance, looked at the sky without guard towers for the first time in its life. "Is it true?" it asked through a translator. "Are we really free?" "Yes," Park replied. "And if humanity has anything to say about it, you'll stay that way." Word of Kelos Prime's liberation spread through hegemony space faster than light. Slave populations that had accepted their fate for centuries suddenly had hope. Resistance movements that had hidden for generations emerged. The empire began eating itself from within. Executor Craxon, given one last chance to stop the human advance, met the Liberation fleet at Barrier Station. The fortress had never fallen in its million-year history. Its shields could withstand supernovas. Its weapons could crack planets. The battle lasted 3 days. Human tactics evolved hourly. Allied species contributed their unique abilities. When the station's shields finally fell, it wasn't to overwhelming firepower, but to a combined assault that bypassed their defenses entirely. Humanity had learned that sometimes the best way to break a wall wasn't to hit it harder, but to go around it. Colonel Volkov led the ground assault personally, his scarred face hidden behind combat armor. The station's defenders fought fanatically, but human soldiers had become something beyond their understanding, warriors who fought not for conquest, but for justice. "Station secure," Volkov reported. "Path to the homeworld is clear." The hegemony homeworld of Praxis had never been attacked. Its citizens had never known war, only the reports of victories from distant stars. When the Liberation fleet appeared in their sky, panic was absolute. But humanity didn't come for vengeance. Admiral Chen's first broadcast to Praxis was an offer of surrender. Show them the mercy they never showed others. Prove that humanity was better. "People of Praxis," Chen announced, "your empire is ended. Your slaves are free. Your fleets are destroyed. Surrender, and you will be treated fairly. Resist, and face the same fate as your extinction fleet." The planetary government, faced with the impossible, chose survival over pride. For the first time in their history, the hegemony surrendered. The empire that had terrorized the galaxy for 1,000,000 years ended not with apocalyptic destruction, but with a whimper. In the aftermath, the the true scope of victory became clear. Thousands of species were free. Trillions of beings could choose their own fate. The galaxy, so long dominated by fear, could finally hope. Humanity took no territory for itself beyond what was needed for defense. The liberated worlds were given self-governance. Former hegemony technology was shared freely. The message was clear. Humanity had not become the new oppressors. President Vasquez addressed the Galactic Assembly, a body that included representatives from every free species. Earth's leader stood before beings that would have been incomprehensible just years before. "We were targeted for extinction," she said. "We survived. We fought back. We won. But victory is not enough. We must ensure this never happens again. No species should fear the stars. No child should be born into slavery. No world should face harvest." The Assembly voted unanimously. A new galactic order would be established, one based on cooperation rather than domination. Humanity, the species that had been marked for destruction, would help lead it. Dr. Rodriguez headed the new Galactic Science Collective, sharing human innovation with all species. The rapid advancement that had saved Earth would now benefit everyone. Weapons became tools, warships became explorers. The machinery of destruction was repurposed for creation. Wing Commander Thompson, now Admiral Thompson, commanded the Joint Defense Fleet. Veterans of the war trained new generations in the tactics that had toppled an empire. Never again would the galaxy be caught unprepared. On Earth, monuments rose to commemorate the fallen. But these weren't just for humans. Every species that had fought for freedom was remembered. The invasion that had sought to destroy humanity had instead forged the strongest alliance in galactic history. Lieutenant Kim, promoted for her cyber warfare expertise, established the first truly universal communication network. Species that had never interacted could now share ideas instantly. The isolation that had allowed the hegemony to divide and conquer was ended forever. Years passed. The scars of war faded. Former hegemony worlds, given freedom and support, became productive members of the galactic community. Even the Vorthak, the species that had led the hegemony, found redemption in service rather than domination. Admiral Chen, now retired, stood in her garden on Earth. The sky that had once burned with enemy fire was peaceful. Ships from 100 worlds passed overhead, traders and explorers rather than conquerors. Her granddaughter, born into this new age, asked her about the war, about the time when aliens had tried to destroy Earth. "They thought we were weak," Chen said, watching a Talari ship paint light patterns in the evening sky. "They thought we were primitive. They thought we were prey. They were wrong on all counts." "What are we then, grandmother?" Chen smiled. "We're humans. We adapt. We survive. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. And when someone makes the mistake of threatening our home or our friends, we remind them why humanity became the guardians of the galaxy." In schools across Earth and beyond, children learned the lesson of the war. Not that might makes right, but that unity makes might. Not that violence solves everything, but that some things are worth fighting for. Not that humans were superior, but that every species had something valuable to contribute. The galaxy had targeted humanity for extinction. Instead, they had awakened something remarkable. A species capable of terrible violence when threatened, but equally capable of mercy, innovation, and leadership. A species that turned certain death into universal liberation. Captain Park, now an ambassador, negotiated treaties with newly discovered species. Each one was offered the same choice: join the galactic community as equals or remain independent but protected. None would face the fate Earth had nearly suffered. The transformation was complete. Humanity had gone from a single world to the de facto leaders of galactic civilization. Not through conquest, but through sacrifice. Not through oppression, but through liberation. Not through fear, but through hope. On the anniversary of the invasion, Earth held a moment of silence, not just for human victims, but for all who had suffered under the hegemony. Then, as had become tradition, celebrations erupted. Music from 100 worlds filled the air. Foods from across the galaxy were shared. Former enemies embraced as friends. Dr. Rodriguez, her hair now gray with age, made a final entry in her war journal. "They came to harvest us, to strip our world bare and enslave our people. They saw us as resources to be exploited. They triggered our darkest nature, the capacity for unlimited violence when cornered. But they also revealed our greatest strength, the ability to transform that violence into justice, that fury into freedom. We didn't just defeat the hegemony, we freed the galaxy. We didn't just survive, we thrived. We didn't just defend, we transcended. Let future generations remember, this is what happens when you target humanity. You don't get prey. You get predators who become protectors. You get warriors who become peacemakers. You get the species that refuses to let anyone else suffer what they almost did. The galaxy targeted us. We responded by saving it." The entry ended with coordinates. The location of every world humanity had freed, every species they had saved, every life that continued because Earth had refused to fall. In deep space, automated beacons broadcast a simple message in every known language. "This galaxy is protected. Threaten any world, and you face them all. Humanity stands watch." The message was clear. The galaxy had learned its lesson. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, other potential conquerors heard the story and chose different paths, because they knew what every being in the Milky Way now understood. You do not target humanity. You do not threaten their home. You do not mistake kindness for weakness, because when pushed, when cornered, when faced with extinction, humanity becomes something else entirely. They become the thing that makes empires fall and slaves go free. They become the guardians of those who cannot guard themselves. The galaxy had targeted Earth. Earth had saved the galaxy. And in the end, that made all the difference.